Welcome to the No Mercy Business Coaching Podcast with Emily A. Woodruff, the podcast that walks you through managing your own small business through the highs and the lows. We'll talk with small business owners from all over the U.S. and share insights on how to help manage your business without the extra fluff and connect with other women just like you. Let's dive in. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me at the No Mercy Business Podcast. It is your host, Emily A. Woodruff, and I have a special guest here for you today. It's Melissa Hadley. Melissa, why don't you give us a little introduction of yourself and your businesses?
Sure. Yes, I have multiple businesses. I am a mom of three, and I have a husband. His name is Matt. My three kids are 12, 5, and 3. I always have to pause and remember. And we live in Massachusetts. So I have an online health coaching business that I've been doing for over 10 years now. And I partner with an amazing company that I love. And I also have an online course that I offer to women that I created to work on mindset. And we have the Happy Glamper Photo Camper, which is just a fun thing that we created out of an old vintage Shasta. It's a photo booth that travels around. And we're adding on to that to add on a mobile bar. So we are very busy, but we love it. So it's fun.
How did you get started with the camper? I know I won't say it right.
Happy Glamper Photo Camper. So I've always loved photography ever since I was on yearbook committee way back when I was in high school. And so I did photography for a while. I did weddings and was an assistant for somebody, and I do senior photo shoots here and there. But weddings just became a lot for me. I have multiple sclerosis. So being on my feet that entire day, because anybody who's been married or is a photographer knows that the photographer is there from basically the minute the bride wakes up until all the fun is going on at the wedding. So then I just said, I want to buy a vintage Shasta because our whole wedding was vintage themed. And I just love camping, but I really love glamping in a camper. And I love those things. And my husband said, if you can find one and make a business out of it, we'll do it. And so we thought about lots of different business opportunities to build out of these things because there's so many ideas out there. But when I saw somebody in Texas doing a photo booth, I said, oh my goodness, this is it. And so it was the first one he agreed on. And so he did the whole thing. It's fun.
That's so neat. I also am a photographer. And I used to do weddings too. And I have told my husband for years that I would love to do that sort of thing. And,
it's so fun.
Yeah. I told him about our meeting today and he's like, that's a really good idea. I'm like, Dan, we have talked about this for years. What do you mean? But he's like, that's pretty cool. So maybe I'll be hitting you up for some more.
Yeah.
Tips.
Please do.
Yeah. It sounds so.
That's tough.
Yeah.
If you can find one.
I would love to do that sort of thing, but we'll see. I got my hands full right now. So how did you decide to pursue your businesses? Where did it all start?
So with the health coaching business, it started really with my MS diagnosis. I had been training for the Boston Marathon and realized that something was going on with my body. I used to be over 200 pounds. And so I knew that I had to change my health if I was going to be able to continue to not take medication for my MS or never take medication for it. Just a personal decision. I just wanted to do it naturally. So totally overhauled my health and my nutrition to be able to continue like that. So that started my health coaching because I had somebody reach out to me about this company that I've partnered with. And from there, it just kind of snowballed. And it's, like I said, 10 and a half years later, still here. And like I said, with the camper, it was just a deep appreciation for photography, not wanting to be on my feet all the time.
Mhm.
And it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. But that was born out of COVID. Like we redid it during that whole craziness and then launched it a year ago.
Okay, that's awesome. That's great. So where do you find your clients for, I guess for either of your businesses? How does that differ between the two of them?
So that's a great question. It does differ. So with the camper, it has been a lot of social media, but a lot of word of mouth. Once we were able to go, we went to some wineries around, and those are some fun spots to set up
Mhm.
the camper. And once people have had a couple glasses of wine, they're much more likely to have a ton of fun inside the camper, getting their photos taken. And once people started to see those people posting their photos, and talking about it to whomever, word of mouth has been huge. But we had to first get out and do those more free events, so to speak, to be able to build that clientele base. And so now we're on the not.com where, all that kind of marketing stuff, but it's mainly word of mouth. With my health coaching business, it is mainly me telling my story and how our products and our workouts have really helped me. And then my team talks about that as well. And so that's word of mouth too, but that is heavily social media. And so while social media can be dark sometimes,
Yeah.
I look at it as a way to connect people and spread happiness and smiles and be the light amongst the darkness sometimes. So,
And for free, usually.
yeah, it's all been for free. I did do a couple ads for the camper, but I found that word of mouth is always your best. As you know, as a photographer yourself, it's like
Yeah.
word of mouth.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
great. That's great. So how would you say that your health coaching business is different than others? What makes you stand out?
So I think for any business, for me, it's my story. It's always you are the difference for any business that you're in. My husband's an electrician. What makes him different? He makes his business different. Like there's not much to differentiate yourself in the electrical business besides yourself and your personality. The same is true with my coaching. It's my story, and anybody who is a mom who might have a chronic illness, who is running from place to place every day, you're going to connect with the people that are part of your tribe, so to speak, who really connect with your story. So anybody who's listening that has a business should understand that it's you that differentiates
Yeah.
yourself from everybody else.
Does your husband own his own electrical company?
Yeah, so he's just he has his own general contracting business with
Okay.
electrical. So
So
yeah.
you guys really are serial entrepreneurs, huh?
Yeah. Yes, we are.
That's sweet.
We're trying to raise 3 little serial entrepreneurs. So we'll see what
Yeah,
they yeah.
that's great. That's so great. So what is being a work from home mom? How does that look for a typical day in your business?
Oh, that's a great question. So I I want to I tear up every time I think about how blessed I am to be able to be home, because it wasn't always like that. So when I started with doing my business with the company that I partner with, it has been a huge blessing because it was a year and a half in where I really started to see traction with the business while I was working at a health insurance company, working in a cubicle, dropping my firstborn off at daycare, having to pump breast milk in a closet. And it was like painful. My husband was laid off from the union before he opened his business. He worked for the union and he was laid off all the time. And so he was able to be home with our son. And then he went back to work, and then we had to send him to daycare. And I was jealous of my daycare provider. I had been jealous of my husband for being able to stay home. And so when I saw the traction with the coaching business, I was able to take a step home and be home with him. And that comes with a lot of work, but my goal was to be home. And now that we have two more children home, it's crazy. And I'm also homeschooling my
I was
oldest
just going to ask.
for the first time. He's now in 7th grade. So I'm homeschooling him this year. So it will be interesting, but I look at it as a huge blessing to be able to be home, make an income from home, do all the passions that are put on my heart, and be able to homeschool him at the same time. I'm not homeschooling my kindergartner. I don't want to be responsible for teaching him how to read.
Yeah, not yet, right?
Yeah, no. But it's been a big blessing, yeah. And a day in the life, it's like, to answer your original question, it's just get up, have a routine, have schedule things. I keep a very detailed schedule. And if some stuff gets knocked off the to-do list, awesome. If some stuff doesn't, I don't beat myself up about it. You just move it to the next day. But I do my priorities first, which the priorities are always the kids, of course, the important stuff that needs to get done for the businesses, and my workout is one of my priorities. So
that's great. That kind of leads into my next question. How do you find time to spend God? How do you find time to spend with God? And what does that look like for you with everything that you've got going on?
It's a great question. So I like to start my morning with my coffee. Lots of water first, and then my coffee, and then I listen to a podcast that it's a church, and I go through their sermons. They go through the Bible, every chapter, every verse. So that's what I like to do daily, and follow along if I'm doing dishes or doing laundry or whatever. I don't follow along necessarily in the Bible, but I just love to hear what the pastor is saying about each chapter. And then for homeschool, that's what we're doing for Bible class, is we're going to sit down and take the time to read along with the pastor, and then my son will journal about it. So there's no curriculum, but it's just reading the Bible. And so, and every decision that we've made in our businesses, like the decision to open this mobile bar, has been God-led. We don't do anything that we don't feel is God-led. And, at first I was a little trepidatious about a mobile bar. How is that God-led? But at the same time, my husband is so extroverted, and he talks about his faith. He talks about God. So you just never know who God's going to bring along your path on that journey. And we're going to serve other stuff besides, typical bar stuff, but
Well, and I've had this conversation with a lot of people lately, but just you can't expect to encounter people and have interactions with them. You can't expect to share God with people if you don't take him to the places that God's not. I mean, he's everywhere, but you're not going to find him in a bar typically. You're not going to find him on the dance floor at a wedding. But if you're a Christian who's serving somebody some booze, you can start those conversations, and that's where the change really starts to happen. So it's totally important, and I love it. I'm all for it. It's great. So do you have any advice for somebody who's just starting out as a health coach or as an entrepreneur? You've got quite a bit of experience in that realm now, it sounds like.
Yeah. One could say. My biggest piece of advice is to just understand that if you fail, it's not failing. You're going to learn from every single thing that goes wrong. There's been plenty that's gone wrong in my coaching business. There's been plenty that goes wrong with the camper, but you're not failing. And that's hard for me to accept sometimes, because I'm always, I'll tell you a really quick story. When my husband and I got married, we did premarital counseling, which I think is the best thing you could ever do. And we realized all of our differences. We also we were very different. The only thing on the little test that they had us take that we agreed on was our spirituality and where we find our peace in God, which is a great only thing to have in common, right? Everything else was totally, they even said, we think you should consider taking a little bit longer. And I'm like, So to me, I failed. I failed that test.
Yeah.
But here we are 13 years later, and we learned so much, and we continue to learn every day in our marriage. And the same is true for your business. You're going to fail, you're going to make mistakes, but you're going to learn from that. And the old saying, fail forward, is so true, but don't beat yourself up, and don't look at everything that goes wrong as, oh, maybe this isn't meant to be. Just trudge forward and figure out what you can learn from it.
I love it. I love that so much. Or is there anything extra that you want our listeners to know about you and your businesses?
Just that I'm always here. I'm always here to help. Even like for you, if you found a camper and you wanted to do it, I am
saving your info.
I love it when women want to do a business, no matter what that business is. If it's social selling, if it's doing something ground up, I'm doing both, and there's room at the table for everybody. And so if you ever have questions, if you ever need help on your health and fitness journey, I'm here to help with that, to anybody listening. So yeah.
Awesome. And then if you just want to share where listeners can find you online and connect with you.
Sure. My website is www.melissahadley.com. It's 1L, 2 S's. And then on Instagram, I'm melissa.hadley.fitwithms.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. This is so great. I'm glad we finally got to chat.
Yeah, it was great to chat with you. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thanks for listening to the No Mercy Business Coaching and Consulting Podcast with Emily A. Woodruff. We specialize in branding and design for women, by women.